All right, so this evening, let us get started on our backs. And as always, you have options, which you can take or leave. Props, you might want to grab a couple of blocks, a blanket, and either of those items can possibly go behind your spine to elevate your torso a little bit in this first Shavasana position. And of course, you can just lie flat on your back without anything in the way. I'm gonna roll my blanket to get lengthwise, just a nice little gentle lift of the chest. And start to settle in wherever you have landed. Your legs might be bent, they might be straight or in a butterfly position. Knees falling into each other. Just find what feels right. Start to slowly but deliberately find your way into your breath. As you're showing up on the mat tonight and showing up to your breathing practice as a way in, just take a few moments here to think about what brought you to your mat. There's no right or wrong answer to that question. You might let this be your intention for this next hour on your mat. Maybe you formulate it into a mantra, a couple words, a word or two, or a short phrase. Just think of what you came here for. And know that it's here for you, whatever that may be. Take a couple more nice, deep, full breaths. Before we get ready to move out of this first posture, let's take a few rounds of breath together, synchronizing our breath, even from our respective spaces, creating that bit of unity in our practice. So empty your air out of your lungs. Take a big breath in through the nose. Sigh it out through your mouth. Really pressing all the air out. Fill up again through your nose. Deep sigh out. Last one. Breathing in through the nostrils. You can open your mouth or keep your lips closed as you make a nice, deep, intentional exhale. And now continue your breath. You might have engaged your Ujjayi breath, making your breath a little more noisy. And We'll start to move around here, keeping your eyes closed down and organically finding your way back into movement. If you have something behind you by way of a prop, go ahead and move that aside as you're ready and lower your spine back down to the mat. And once you're ready, hug the knees into the body. Give them a little bit of compression here and draw some circles with your knees, taking them out and away and back in toward each other. And then let's switch directions. Just take a few rotations and a stirring in the hip joints. Good, and now let's keep the right knee gathered in here and lengthen out your left leg. And create a little more compression on that right shin, just feeling the hip joint. Next breath in, lengthen that right leg up to the sky. And don't be too aggressive with this stretch. You're just opening up here in the body. Hamstrings might be tight. Fold that right knee in again. And then let's switch sides here. Let your left knee come back in. Lengthen the right leg long. Once again, just giving a nice little gentle tug on that left knee and shin. Next big inhale, lengthen your left leg long. And I'm not grabbing too far up on my left leg here, just holding it in place, shoulders still grounded, feeling, breathing into these left hamstrings. And bend your left knee again. And at this point, you can leave your shoulders grounded or pick the head and shoulders up off the mat. This right heel can also float. It just depends on how much you want here. We're going to wake up the abs just a tad here, wake up our core. So switch knees here, go nice and slow. And breathe in as you're switching. And then exhale as you compress in. So given that we're taking a breath, around a breath each switch, let it go pretty slow. It's not about the number of repetitions, but the control here. And I'm not really counting, but let's take one more round, however many you've done. Good, and then relax your shoulders down. Take both legs long and take a nice full body stretch. Take a big breath. And bring your knees back in. Grab onto your legs behind or in front of your knees, and let's rock and roll a few times, forward and back. On your last trip, come up to a standing forward fold, maybe hands free, maybe not. And you can take it right into a ragdoll fold. Soften your knees, feet are hip width or maybe a little bit more. Just let yourself drop down here. Head and neck, nice and relaxed. Shaking the head, yes. Shaking the head, no. And then grounding into your feet. Let your knees bend and rise up to stand. Big big breath in all the way up. Let's interlace the hands and leave your index fingers out. So a little steeplechase of the hands. Take a breath in as you lift up out of your waist, and exhale, find a side bend over to the right. Pause here for a breath. Really press that left foot into the mat to ground, left hip bumping out. Inhale, come back to your center. Shoulders relaxed. Exhale, take it over to the left. In this nice little crescent moon shape, feeling it deep in the side body. Come back to center, release your hands, lean back a little bit more. And exhale, bow forward. Let's add in a lift halfway, flattening the back, pulling the shoulder blades together. Fold forward, exhale. One more of those. Halfway lift, inhale. Lengthen out, forward fold, exhale. Let's step the feet back to a plank pose. And remember that you can put your knees down here if that feels better in the body. Try to take a little weight out of your wrists by pressing into the fingers, all the way down to the fingertips. Breathe. That core that should be nice and warm, pull it in. Lowest belly muscles pulling in and up. Take another breath in here. And exhale, hinge back to your downward facing dog. First one here, breathe here. I'm gonna tuck my shirt in if anybody's even watching me. And feel those hamstrings continue to open up. And you might pedal back and forth. If you're walking the dog, let it be pretty big here. And same nice slow intention as those little bicycles before. So not going for speed, going for intention here. And let's rest in the center here of our downward facing dog. Shoulders dropping away from the ears, even as we're upside down. Take another breath here. Sigh it out. Inhale, come up high on the toes. Knees bend, look forward, and let's come up to the top of the mat. Lift half inhale. Fold, exhale. Root to rise up on your breath in. Take that little steeplechase of the hands, reach up and over on your exhale. So one breath to movement this time. Inhale back through center, and exhale, take the other side. Coming back to the middle. Come a little deeper into that back bend if it's available, and then bow forward, exhale. Lifting up halfway, breath in. Forward fold, exhale. Step back to your plank. You can hold this plank as we just did if you're ready for a full vinyasa, either from the knees, from the toes, bending the elbows, Chaturanga Dandasana, that's an exhale. Inhale, lifting the chest, cobra, upward facing dog. Exhale, twist tuck, hips lift high, downward facing dog. Breathe here. Let's take 3 more runs of breath. You can drop your knees and take them in child's pose. Don't ever hesitate to take a resting pose when you need to. You can always take more or take less, whatever you need. Then let's let the right leg lift up on a breath in. Exhale, hinge forward, draw the knee toward your chest. One more of these, lifting up, 3-legged dog, inhale. Exhale, plant that foot in between the hands, low lunge. Settle into the hips here. Now you can place that back knee down on the mat. On your next in breath, let the right arm lift up to the sky. Twist this open. Stay for a breath here. And then close that hand down. Let your back foot flatten down to the mat. Toes are angling in about 45 degrees. Feet are about hip width distance apart. Press into your feet, rise up into your warrior one. Right knee is bent. Left heel is pressing. Right hip is moving back. Good. Stay for another breath here. And then drop your hands to your low back. Interlace your hands. Take another inhale, lift the chest, press your knuckles down. Stay here, or lean forward, come into your humbly bound warrior. So only come down as far as your body is allowing while still keeping the hips in relative line here. So right hip is going to want to wing out to the right. So maybe you stop just hovering above the thigh. Breathe wherever you are. Take another breath, and then let those hands come down to the mat. Come on to the ball of your back foot, drop that knee. Let's shift it back into a half splits. Lengthen this right leg out. My hips are shifting back to align right over this grounded left knee. Flex your right toes. Stay here, another breath. And then start to lunge back forward. Tuck into those back toes, lift the back knee. Step back, make your way to downward facing dog. Maybe you take that high to low push up. Maybe you leave all that jazz out. And once you reach your dog, left heel lifts up. Exhale, knee into the chest. Really hinge forward, lifting, lengthening, and then plant that foot in between the hands, low lunge. So we spent a couple breaths here on the other side just to set up, knee over ankle in this front bent knee. Letting the hips kind of sink down, sink forward, get into the sensation, and then left arm lifts high on an inhale, twisting open. Grounded back knee, awesome place to be. Another breath here. Close it down. Ground that back foot. On an inhale, press into both of your feet. Rise up, warrior one. Sink into that lunge. Let the left hip move back in space a bit. Let the shoulders relax. Right heel pressing. Take the hands to the low back. Interlace the fingers. Inhale, puff the chest. And exhale, bow forward. Coming into your humbly bound. If you took it on the other side, you can also enjoy the back bend, just opening the chest, pressing your knuckles toward the floor. And if you are in this fold, really let the crown of the head drop down. Another breath here. And then let your hands carefully release to the mat. Let the right knee come down, shift back to the seated half splits. Left hip still plugging back. Nice big breaths. Good, now walk it forward. Lunge into that left side. Tuck your back toes and step back. Flow your way to your downward facing dog. Beautiful. Once you reach your dog, lift your heels, knees bend, looking forward. We'll step to the top of the mat. Lifting halfway, breath in. Forward fold, breath out. Press into your feet, rise up to stand. Arms sweep high. And chair pose on your exhale, hips sink back. Biceps by the ears, maybe hands at heart center. Weight rocks back to the heels. Lift your toes, feel how that lifts your arches. Belly really drawing in. Keeping you strong here. One more breath. And exhale, fold. Let it go. Lifting half. Forward fold as you exhale. Feet travel back. Maybe going right to that dog or taking that push up in that back bend. Now, once you reset here in your dog, we're going to take one round of a more traditional Surya Namaskara B, or Sun Salutation B. So breath to movement, warrior one, each side, left, right and left, and then vinyasa back to downward facing dog. So moving with your breath. And if you want to skip it, you can always skip it. You can take child's pose, you can take something else. So we'll start with the right side. You can add in or edit out these mountain climbers, knee drawing in. Setting up warrior one, we rise, breath in. Hands go right down to the mat, breath out, stepping back. Taking your flow. Just one round. Left leg rises. Exhaling as you hug the knee in. Inhale, three-legged. Foot plants, back foot grounds. Rise up, warrior one. Release it back down on the exhale. Stepping back, and we flow. If you're not exactly with me with your breath, it's okay. Doesn't have to be a synchronized effort. Once you reach your down dog, you can rest there or drop those knees to the mat, sink the hips back, child's pose. Heart rate came up a little bit. Try to steady your breath just a couple rounds here. Beautiful. Let's rise up, meeting in downward facing dog. And then lift the heels, bend the knees, look forward, come up to the top of the mat, forward fold. Breath in, lift halfway, forward fold, we exhale. Then into the knees, rise up, sweep the arms high. And pull the hands into heart center. Lift your left thigh to the height of the hip, palms pressing, one-legged mountain pose here with hands at heart. Just feel the sensation of standing on one foot here. And then let your left ankle cross your right knee and sink the hips back into a Ekapada, one-legged chair pose. So we've got balance going here. We've got strength in our standing leg. We've got flexibility here, opening the hip. Lots of stuff going on. And we might be challenged by all of it or one thing a little bit more than the other. Let's stand up tall. Let your left thigh come with you. Reach up, breath in. Exhale, hinge forward, come into warrior three. Arms can keep reaching forward, hands at heart center, maybe reaching back for airplane arms. Breathe. Left toes are all facing down at the mat, so that hip is closed. One more breath here. And then let's carefully land your back toes, sweep the arms up high for high crescent lunge. Right foot is forward. Breathe. Take another breath here. And on the exhale, let your right arm scoop down and back, finding an open arm twist to your right. Keep your breath going. Relax the shoulders. Take your right hand to your low back. Sweep the left arm up and back. Big breath in. Reversing this, deepening your back bend. And then on the exhale, let it go. Spin yourself open to the opposite side of the mat, long edge of the mat. Let's open everything out in a star pose. Pause here for a breath. Take another big inhale. Angle your heels in a little bit, toes out. And exhale, come into your goddess pose. So tailbone pointing straight down at the mat. Sometimes we like to release the buns back a little bit. So if you think of tilting the pelvis slightly up, pulling your belly in, dropping a little lower. Another thing I see both on my own mat and others is rolling into those inner arches. So notice where the weight is in your feet. Try to evenly distribute it between outer and inner edges. Let's inhale, reach up, straighten all your arms and legs, and then bow forward. Prasarita, wide-legged fold, drop it in. You can shift your hips side to side here. You can side lunge right and left. You might take an open arm twist. There are headstands out there from here. I'm not stopping you, just be safe. Especially if you're alone in your yoga space, in your house, don't hurt yourself. And a couple more breaths. Finishing up whatever you are working on here. We'll be here again on the way through side two. So you'll have 2 opportunities here. So come back to center with your hands if they left and take a little lift halfway of the chest. Exhale as you fold. Walk your hands toward your left foot. So we're coming for the back of the mat. Come to the inside of the left foot with both hands. So lizard lunge. And if possible, let's keep this active by keeping the back knee lifted. Just see what happens. If the knee needs to come down, you know what, it's okay. And then press your left knee a little more actively into that left tricep. Press your tricep back out into your knee. Maybe that's maybe that's as far as you go, or maybe you press so hard that this left foot floats up. I know it sounds kind of wild. And wherever you landed, let's release back to a 3-legged dog. Let that left leg lengthen up, bend the knee, open your hip. Stay right here in your 3-legged dog, or let the left leg come all the way down to the ground. Right leg is straight. Lift your hips, lift your chest for Wild Thing. If you flipped over, let's come back. Just carefully hitting that rewind button. And downward dog is where we meet. Give it a couple breaths here. Reset. Down dog is our home base of sorts. And then let's lift the heels. We bend the knees and look forward. Come to the top of the mat, which is now the back of the mat. We'll lift halfway, breath in, forward, full breath out. Rise up, sweep the arms high, and hands come to heart center. This time we lift our right thigh, hip height. This knee is in direct extension of the right hip. Pressing all 4 corners of that standing foot into the mat for stability. You might be feeling your stabilization muscles moving and shaking. It's a good thing. And then cross your right ankle over the left knee. Sit back for this 1-legged chair. You might sink a little lower, or you might be good where you're at. Keep your breath deeper than your pose. And on our next inhalation, we're coming back up. Thigh comes with, and we hinge forward, exhaling, warrior three. And coming back for those airplane arms, those felt good. Shoulder blades really hugging together if you're there with me. Think of revolving your right pinky toe down toward the mat, squaring that hip down. Carefully land those right toes. Sweep the arms up, big breath in, high crescent lunge. Breathe in, sink and settle. Another inhale, grow some length out your fingertips, and exhale, left arm sweeps down and back. Open arm twist. There's always one side. Any posture that we practice left and right, one side might feel a little more open. You notice my left arm isn't really parallel to the right. That's okay. Don't force, don't strain. We'll take that left hand to the low back, sweep the right arm up and back. It's one breath, and exhale, let it go, open to the long edge of the mat. Even your feet out, open it up, star pose, big breath in. And exhale, let's bow forward. Another option here, taking a bind at your low back, opening up the shoulders here. Connect into your breath here. Couple more. And release your hands to the mat if they left. We'll half lift, breath in. Fold as you breathe out, walk it to the front, the original front of the mat. Coming into that active lizard. Hands inside the right foot. And start to really create that engagement. Knee to tricep, tricep to knee. And staying there, just really pressing everything like your life depends on it. And maybe that right foot floats up, maybe not. Hold, breathe, and release to that three-legged. Leg lifts, knee bends, hip opens. Staying here, flip into your wild thing if you're so inclined. Sometimes it feels like such a racket to flip over, but then when you get there, once in a while, it just feels so good to come into that back bend. Come back around, three-legged. And this time, we're gonna take advantage of this lifted leg. Let's step it through to a low lunge. Ground your back foot, rise up to your warrior two this time. Coming right into another short little standing sequence here. On your next inhale, reach up and back, straighten your right leg, lengthen out. Pause here. If you want, you can grab your top wrist with the left hand, pulling a little additional space in the right side of the body. Let's tee the arms out, releasing. Left foot might bump in a bit. Take another breath in. Exhale, reach forward, bump this left hip back. Trikonasana, triangle pose. Revolve this left side of your body, open. Then maybe the left arm lifts. You can extend this by reaching that left arm over the ear for these last couple of breaths. Good, now let's come back up, releasing. Let's take hands to hips. Step the left foot in and up, squaring the hips to the short edge of your mat. Reach the left arm high, left heel presses down, and on an exhale, find your revolved triangle. So I'm gonna grab my block here. I was trying to do it without, and then I thought, why? This pose is so much more accessible in my body with a block. I'm even taking it up one level here. And once again, kind of like our twist, if this right arm isn't opening all the way up, it does not matter. Go as far as you need to. And then close down on a breath out, dropping into pyramid pose. You might use that block right here in your pyramid too, under your hands, or hands can come to the mat. If it adds something to the posture, you can flex those right toes toward your shin. Good, now drop your toes if they came up. Frame your foot. Let's step back to a lunge. Step your right foot back to meet the left. We haven't had a vinyasa in a while. If you want one, take that push up to up dog to down dog, or just press back to your down dog. And then we'll come for this left side. Lift the left leg high. We already flipped over if you were going there on during our other sequence, so we can step this right through and rise up on an inhale, warrior two. Sink and settle in on your exhale. Stay for another breath here. Reaching up and back, reverse, and straighten the left leg. Take that little bind. My lifetime peeps, we call this Sky Archer. I don't know if that pose name is used anywhere outside of the Lifetime walls. I've heard it was a Lifetime patented yoga pose. So release your Sky Archer, shorten your stance, breathe in, reach forward with those left fingertips, reach, 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 and triangle pose on your exhale. Once again, you can maybe even take a hand to your right side of your rib cage to feel that peeling open. Maybe you extend the arm long over the right ear. Shift the gaze down. Lift yourself up with a breath in. Hands come to hips. Shorten your stance. Square the hips forward. Maybe widen the stance a bit. Right arm lifts. Breath in. Exhale. And that revolve triangle. Coming back for my block. Right heel pressing. It's hard to get that groundedness in the back foot sometimes. One more breath here, find length. And exhale, drop into your pyramid. The left set of toes might flex up for the shin, only if you need it. And then come back for your lunge. Stepping left foot back to meet right. Taking that vinyasa, it may be the last opportunity. It might be the best one that you skip. And meeting in this downward facing dog. Walk, or if you're feeling daring, you might float your feet to the outer edges of your mat for Malasana pose. If it isn't graceful, don't worry about it. So let your hips drop down, but still keep that pelvic floor lifted. Particularly if you're really flexible here, sometimes it's easy to just kind of to let go of everything here. So lifting up. Keeping the chest lifting. Hands come down. Release the hips up high. Pedal knees. Let your feet work their way back in toward the midline. And then let's step back to a plank pose. Knees up or down. Let's lower all the way down to the mat. Maybe you make it super slow. Maybe it's a belly flop. I won't know either way. And let one ear release down to the mat. Let your hips release. Shake your hips a little bit side to side to loosen your low back. And if it's available to you, interlace your hands out your low back. And on a breath in, lift the chest, press your knuckles back, try to keep those heels of the hands together. And the legs might also lift simultaneously, locust pose. Don't feel any great need to take your gaze way up. Just look at the top edge of your mat. Just keep the back of your neck long, breathe. And release back down. Opposite ear to the mat. We'll take one more locust here. You can bind your hands again, or just keep your hands next to your body, pinkies up, lift the chest, breath in, lift your legs if you're working that low half. You can stay right here, perfectly good place to be. Maybe the knees bend, maybe you connect hands to feet for floor bow in these last few breaths. Hands pressing into feet, feet pressing into hands, full breaths, nice big lifts, and release it down. Bend your knees if they're not there already. Windshield wipe side to side. And then place your hands for the top of your rib cage. Let's press up to hands and knees and take a cat pose. Chin into chest. Really big exaggerated arch of the spine. We're holding the pose, not the breath. Good. Now, you can stay up tall on your knees here. Lift your torso all the way up here. And we're setting up for our camel pose. So I like to tuck my toes, just in case. Have the heels a little higher than they would be with untucked toes. And then take your hands to your low back. Really snug those shoulders together as much as possible. Send the hips forward. That's where the hips want to stay. Somebody came around and bolted your hips. Lift your chest, lift your chin as much as is comfortable. And you might stay here. This is a really beautiful back bend, heart opening. If the hands are inclined to walk down a little lower, down your thighs, toward your heels. Just try to keep those hips pressing forward. Try to keep the breath nice and strong. And carefully start to walk your hands back in whatever depth you reach. And let's fold the hips back toward the heels, arms by your sides, child's pose. So from where you are, let your knees start to widen out toward the edges of the mat. Sink your belly back between the thighs. The arms can still reach back, or maybe they want to reach forward. If there's a block or a blanket under your forehead, it's also a good option. Taking a wider child's pose or tadpole. Feeling those hips start to, or continue to open rather. We've been warming them up, doing some opening through our lunges. Strengthening as well. It's all playing that strength and flexibility in harmony with one another. So if you feel really, really good here, just don't feel any pressure to move onward. There is the possibility of a frog pose if you need some more in your hips. And I think most of y'all are familiar with frog pose. I'll help walk you through just in case, but I really prefer to get into this. First of all, there's a block or pillow or something involved for underneath the rib cage, maybe another one for your forehead. And then I like to keep a knee on the mat, toes turned out, kind of think frog legs, hips in alignment with the knees, and then other knee on a blanket so I can slide out to that point where I feel that little tug of resistance. Not super deep for me today. That's all right. And let's see, I'm gonna flip my block up one, and then I can place my ribs down on the block. And then I'm really nice and supported in the upper body. If you try this out, it feels good, you can breathe, then keep keeping on. If it's painful in any way, too much, go back to that wider child's, or feel free to add in another posture if you are feeling some other stretch here. And sometimes what I see, again, this is my body and others have witnessed, sometimes in an effort to get the chest descended down to the floor. Another good reason for a prop to bridge that gap. Sometimes we release the hips out of line with the knees, which isn't going to hurt the body, but it's also not going to access the tissues that we are trying to open and stretch here. So keeping that, and you can notice, you can press the tailbone back just even a millimeter or so, and you notice the sensation really just kind of snap into focus, and then if you release forward, it lessens. So you can play with that based on how you're feeling here. We'll just be here a little bit more. Try to soften your face if your jaw is clenching, if your forehead is tense. Your hands, your shoulders, try to relax where you can. It's an intense pose. Using your breath. Let's take another big round of breath here before we release. If you're really deep into it, you might ease forward onto the belly and windshield wipe your knees side to side. I'm going to just kind of go back the way I came, sliding in. Ooh. And downward dog as you release the hips, or circling, straightening your legs. Let's take any movement at all as you counter that big, big stretch. And once you're ready, just take yourself down onto the mat on your back. Knees hugging into the chest. And I always welcome a spinal twist at the end of the practice. I will cue that if you want to follow me. If there's something else you need, an inversion, another back bend, follow that intuition. Just let your knees drop to one side. Your gaze can turn away from your lower body. We'll lift back up through center, inhaling. And on an exhale, let the knees drop to the opposite side. Come back to your center when you're ready. Find your way to your Shavasana in your own time. Okay, one more visit to your intention. What brought you to this mat tonight? And whether that is something specific to your practice that just occurred, or if it's something ongoing. Let's just take another breath together, inhaling and exhaling, releasing any barriers between us and this intention, and complete release here in your Shavasana. Allow your body to find ease and find rest. Only when you're ready, start to come back into a deepening of breath. As an entrance back into awareness, finding small movement, maybe a windshield of your toes side to side, rotating your legs in the hip sockets, moving your hands, your fingers, taking a full body stretch. And however you'd like to get there, make your way up to seated. Coming right there, pausing on your side for a bit. Just remember, there's no rush. And once you reach your seat, let the arms open wide, chest and heart open with them. Hands, sweep the arms up high, take a breath in. Lift your chin, hands come together, exhale, thumbs find your heart center. Thank you so much for making your way to your mat tonight, for allowing me to guide you through this practice. I always appreciate you showing up for yourself and maintaining this community that we are still together, even when we're not physically together. And it's a beautiful thing. And as we bow to each other, into ourselves in gratitude and light and love, we stay together. Namaste. Thank you, ladies.